Don't think of him as your pastor. Think of him as your boss.
That's okay.
I want you to relax.
It's okay.
Welcome to On This Hill, a podcast of Church on the Hill. We're one church in 2 locations, Salem and Kaiser, and I don't have Pastor Bruce with me today. I've got instead Pastor Daniel De Silva, right?
Yeah, you said it right, Daniel De Silva. Yeah, I'm
I
glad
spelled
to
it
be
wrong,
here.
though.
You probably put the D-E instead of D-A, but it's okay.
I do.
Most of people does it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, it's really inconvenient to me that you and your wife's name are so much alike.
Yeah.
Because how many times have I tried to call you and I end up calling your wife?
Probably most of the time.
Most of the time.
And texting, yeah.
Every time I try to call Daniele, I'll tell, because I usually just tell Siri, like, call Daniel De Silva. And it's like, calling Daniele De Silva. Like, that's not what I said.
Yeah.
So what have you done at Church on the Hill, and how long have you been here?
So we've been with YWAM for 20 years, but then we moved it here to Salem about 9 years ago to join the YWAM Salem. And then we visit the church on the hill on one Sunday. I remember we got in Thursday at Salem, and someone that picked us up at the airport say, hey, Sunday, do you want to visit the church with us? And because I think it's the closer church and a lot of people from YWAM was here. So they brought us to the church on the hill, and we like it. In that time, wasn't two pastors speaking, but was one of you, Jason or Bruce, will come up, introduce the message halfway, and we'll sit down.
Yeah.
And I remember like, oh man, the other guy probably came to correct
Yeah.
what the first guy did it wrong. So we like it. We visit other churches, but then I think because of the background of most of the people in leadership was with YWAM. But I even today I was talking to my wife. The reason why we say that's our church is where Bruce in one of the welcome, he say, if we're a mess, you're welcome to this messy church. And then we say, yeah, we are one of those. Can we join them? Yeah, we found the perfect church.
Yeah.
And then we served different areas every time church has a class. Me and my wife will serve as a table leader or as a helper in the kitchen. But then probably like 4 years after that, there was an opening for a youth pastor. And I volunteered to help when in the process you guys were finding a pastor.
You've never been a youth pastor before.
I never been a youth pastor before, and I probably thought about would never do it. And then I remember volunteers saying, hey, Bruce, I heard you guys don't have a youth pastor. My daughter was a sophomore. And I say, in the meantime, if you need help, I can help. A week later, Bruce said, hey, instead of us interviewing a lot of people, why don't you step in?
Yeah.
And then I remember coming to you the next day. I say, hey, I think Bruce is a little bit like off. He invite me to be the youth pastor. And then you say, yeah, then that was the plan. We were going to make it official. But, and I love that organic conversations. And we prayed about me and Daniele. And we thought it was a good time to transition out of YWAM, and then we joined the church.
So you youth pastored for how long?
4 years.
And then now,
Then last summer, we moved out from youth ministry to Salem campus pastor.
Right.
Yeah. It's been a joy.
Has it?
Yeah. It's been a great ride. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, we kind of asked you to come join us for the podcast for two reasons. One is Bruce is playing in the Redwoods right now. Him and Linda are on a nice little vacation. I hope they're having a great time. But also, this month is going to be a little bit different, and you are a leader. You're a big part of family ministries at Church on the Hill. And just kind of want to talk about why do we do July the way we do, or what is Family Month? Why are we doing Family Month? And what is maybe family ministry? Maybe we should start there. What's family ministries?
Yeah, so I think it was about just before the pandemic, or no, it was right first year of the pandemic. We were talking about, we had a meeting with kids ministry, the leaders of kids ministry, the Kid Nation,
Right.
and middle school and high school. We were talking together, and because we realized we had a moment where we have a hand ministering the kid for all the way to fifth grade, and then
Yeah.
middle school, and then high school. So if you think about most of 12 years of someone's life, the three of us, we will be in some, and then, but then in the meantime, when we do an event, we say Tuesday night, parents of kids come, then Wednesday night, and say, why don't we do combine, and then we do moments, and then we call the family minutes where we all come together. So
Yeah.
that was the idea. So what we would do things in ministry, like youth ministry and then kid ministry, but we also will do things together. And then when we do it together, we call the family ministry.
Yeah.
So
So we're
then-
trying to kind of hold people's hands from when they have a kid all the way through the stages of their life.
Yes.
Into adulthood.
Yeah, and also holding hands.
Yeah.
So I know you have ministry. This my kid all the way to fifth grade, and now I know from where I take it and then move on,
Yeah.
and then we it's a process of doing it together. So
Yeah.
and then we also decide on that time would be amazing to get a month in the year that we could do the series on Sunday and the whole service where the whole family can sit together and worship together. Because if we see the babe dedication, we ask the parents a question: do you committed to raise the kid in the way of God? And then we look to the congregation and say, do you want to model to this kid
Right.
how to love God? But then there's a moment we can do this all together. Parents will bring the kids to the service, and then we were going to worship God together. We're going to do the message. I know we shortened the service because of the span. You know, the one thing I love is we give kids a praise pack. In the praise pack, there's activity.
Yeah.
And then as I'm speaking on Sunday, my time is looking to the kids right in the front, and if he's still going on the praise pack, we still have time to
Yeah.
preach. When he's done, it was like,
Yeah.
guys, it's
When all the
finger.
activities are over, the
Yeah.
sermon needs to be over.
But it's an amazing time because we shorten the service a little bit, and then actually we don't shorten in the sense of the community, because we after the service end,
Yeah.
we go outside and there's streets. We have ice cream. We all have a hot dog, and then it's beautiful to see the kids are still there, parents talking, or grandparents is serving his grandkid, and it is community. It's I think it's a time of the month where we still
Yeah.
build community. Not we don't do the rest of the year, but it's intentionally, and we also in a way to celebrate and thanking our volunteers, especially on the kids ministry, that we say in the month of July we would do this service together so that you can join with your family,
Yeah.
because you've been serving so faithful, and also you can plan your vacation not knowing that you're not gonna bail on the ministry
Right.
not coming on Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I was thinking about family ministry a lot this month because, sorry, this is maybe a little bit depressing, but last week I had to go back to my hometown and do a memorial service for an old friend. And it was basically the church I grew up in. It was these three families that kind of were everything. It was a very small church, very small town. And so I got to see those guys again, which is it was awesome to see everybody. But I realized the moms and the dads of those families, including my mom who brought me to church, and then the other two families that kind of brought their kids to church, they're all I did a funeral for one of those kids. I mean, I'm not a kid anymore, but the kid of those. And I was just thinking about that, like, oh yeah, all the VBSs. Back then we had Sunday school. You come into Sunday school, there's all the work that was put in. Because when you're a small church, everyone has to do everything. There's no hey, it's not whether or not you feel called to do this. It's your turn to do Sunday school for the kids. Like, you're going to do Sunday school for the kids. And like those women, those men, like, they were everything to me. Like, especially one of the dads. I love my dad. My dad was an amazing man. He loved me dearly. He was always saying how proud he was of me, but he wasn't a Christian, and all the way through my life until the very end of his life. And so, for an example of a godly man outside of the pastor of the church, there's basically this one other guy in the church that, his funeral was a while ago. He's passed away now, but now I'm connected to those kids who are up in our 50s and some of them 60s and stuff. But just seeing like, oh, someone held our hand through all those years, and there's still faith. I mean, some people have maybe wandered, but for the most part, there's a community of faith because someone loved the kids, which is remarkable.
Yeah, I grew up in a Christian home with a Sunday school where you go Sunday morning, everybody goes into the church, sing 1 or 2 songs, and then everybody's divided into a class. There is the booklet, you go through the year. And then we have to memorize a verse with the lesson, and then we come back to the service, and every class will present.
Yeah.
And I still remember the stories. Actually, most of the Bible stories I remember today with details. It was from that time of my life.
Yeah.
And I remember the Pastor John. His name is not John English, but it's João. That is the Portuguese. I remember like he was just this man who cares for us on Sunday, and he will care for us during the week. Would take us fishing. Would take us we did picnic. We did things where it's still investing to the life. So
there was a pastor when I was a kid. Les McLeod was his name. He wasn't really there for a real long time, but he was there at a very important time of my life, when I was just kind of coming into an age where suddenly I had to own my faith. It wasn't whether or not my mom took me to church. It was whether or not I accepted Jesus, whether he was the Lord of my life or not. And he just kind of invited me into his family, and I'd hang out at his house. He lived in a little double-wide mobile home outside of Stanfield, this even smaller town outside of the town I grew up in. But that home meant so much to me. And I'll never forget this, because he kind of felt like there was more of a call in my life than I even thought there was. And I remember he had introduced me to Strong's Exhaustive Concordance, right? So the big giant book you used to see on pastor shelves before these things existed. And he showed me like, oh, here's how to look up every word in the Bible. Like, you can use this thing and it'll unlock the Bible. It'll show you what is behind the English words and what they mean and where they come from, how many times it was used in Scripture. And I remember sitting with him, and he was showing me this and how he put together a sermon and what it looked like, and the prayer time that went into it and the tears that went into it. And man, that little bit of attention formed a huge part of my life. Like, I wouldn't have dreamed I could be a pastor, or that I should be a pastor, except that someone walked me through that.
And I just thinking about this. We always think about to invest in someone's life, I have to be a pastor,
right?
Or I have to be called into ministry. But it's not. It's just being available to be there for the person.
Right.
There's one person. It was my kind of like a middle school age. In Brazil, we don't go to school years in ministry, in church. We go for age. So you're a young adult after 18, so we call. But I remember in my teen years, preaching. It was the preaching season.
Yeah.
I have this woman that invests in me. I don't remember seeing her preaching. She didn't make any announcement. She was one of the youth leaders.
Yeah.
But she didn't even make an announcement. But she did everything
Yeah.
to keep me plugged into the church.
Right.
and her husband will pick me up at home.
Mm-hmm.
I will make an excuse I can't go to the camp because I don't have money. She will find someone to pay.
Yeah.
I don't have a way to go. Her husband work on the other side of town. She will say, "Oh, he's coming from work, and he pick you up."
Yeah.
And it was like it's still today is one of the. Every time I go to Brazil, I make sure I see her and her husband.
I have this theory. It's just a theory, but well, the first part I believe to be true, and that is no one's more important in your life than your parents. Your parents have the most time, the most energy, the most everything. The biggest influence on your life comes from your parents. But as a kid, you almost feel like, well, they have to say that. They're my mom and dad, or they have to love me, or they have to. But the secondary circle of Sunday school teachers, Kid Nation, volunteers, hospital, the people around you that love you, even though they don't have to love you, you're not their kid, but they just do. That is, I don't know if it's just the icing on the cake or what, but it makes a huge difference in people's life. And it happens at this formative time. Like we'll talk about like wet cement. Kids are like wet cement. You have a certain amount of time before they harden into who they're going to be as an adult. And I don't want to sound hopeless that after you're an adult, you're as hard as cement. But there's this reality that as kids are little, now's the time. Now's the time. Work with them now. They're soft, they're pliable. Like something can happen here that it's much harder to do later in life. I found this quote, Frederick Douglass. He was an abolitionist in the 1800s. He's an escaped slave who then worked to free more slaves. But he said this: "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men."
Yeah.
I think it's just so true. Yeah. And the Bible never calls us. It never says, children, become like adults to become people of faith. Just the opposite says, adults, become like children.
Yeah.
If you want to come to the kingdom of God, it doesn't say children grow up. It says adults, you need to become like children, which I think it's not saying be childish, not behave like children, but saying become like soft again, become tenderhearted again.
Probably accept,
yeah,
like a child accept.
Yeah.
What are you investing in their life?
Yeah, believe. Accept.
Yeah, because if you tell the kid, we have my kids grew up in ministry, so they see, and we were in Brazil, and then we were in Africa for 5 years. We were in New Zealand. We went to the Philippines. We were like nomads, like go everywhere. But in all those moments, they also live around people who was living by faith.
Yeah.
And also they saw us living by faith, and saw us seeing God doing miracles. And then it creates a natural idea of God will provide. God and but at the same time you can miss it by not teaching them. They say, that provision that just came here, it was God's faithfulness.
Right.
It's a and then that's where because of the kid will have a heart. It's the same process of learning a language. When we went to learn English, I went to English class every day.
Yeah.
It's like not know one word in English. And then my daughter will go to a preschool where they're going to play the whole day. 6 months later, if we did an English test, she will get a B in English, and I will go F.
Yeah.
And then it was like, why? Because the children's heart, it is more teachable and more easy to learn. It's just repeat.
Yeah.
Just like, this is a chair. Okay, chair. She will say chair. I want to know what is in my language. I make so complicated. The same thing as an adult. If you come, that's the truth of God. And then we have so many bags and to unfold what is the truth. Bye, I heard this when I was 25 or when I was 30 years old. So we have this whole unpack to do when the kid is just like, okay, thanks. That's the truth. I'm walking with. Yeah.
I hope I hope one day to be known as a children's church with a great adult program instead of, a church with a good kids program. Because the reality is kids are where it's at, and they really, really are. On the subject of family, I'm wearing my Go, Love, Serve, COTH Missions in 23 shirt. So you and I are going to be going to Mexico in how many
10
days?
days.
In 10 days. What time are we leaving in the morning?
So we meet here at church at 3 in the morning. Yeah. So
3 a.m.
Yeah.
You're killing me.
Yeah, just scared of losing the flight, so we're gonna get early there.
You were the one who set the tickets.
There's no
3 a.m.
Yeah, it's the problem is we're gonna drive to Portland,
Ignore this.
and then
This is just me being.
I'm just
being
teaching
a
people
child.
to be on time.
That's good. That's good. We need a South American to teach us
Yeah,
to be on time.
of course. We
No,
are always on time.
but
Our time.
The reason why I bring it up is because we have about how many
We're
teenagers
taking
going with us?
50 people,
Yeah.
and we have 21 age of like high school. We have about 8 young adult
Yeah.
and about few more mature people
Mature.
that are coming with us. Yeah,
Me.
over 40.
Yeah.
Some more mature
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
It
I
is-
think
it
you'll
is
find
an
I'm not the
amazing-
most mature person on the team.
It is an amazing opportunity to this intergenerational
There you
group
Yeah.
coming together and serving God. And the goal, it's not to make them work together. The goal is we are going to serve God, and that's what it makes the work.
Yep.
It is not like if you take 50 people from the youngest we have, it's a 10 years old, no, a 9 years old that goes with the parents, and the oldest, if I'm not wrong, is 60 something.
Yeah. I
If
think
we
so.
put all those people in one house and say you live here for a week, I don't think it works.
Yeah.
But if we say we're going to leave at 3 in the morning and we're going to fly to San Diego,
Yeah.
we get in the bus, drive down, and we're going to serve God, it works.
It does.
I
It's
don't know
amazing.
the math of that, but
Yeah.
it works.
No, I think I want to point out something about it. We're get close to wrapping up here in just a minute, but because we talk about wanting to be, like you said, intergenerational, cross-generational. We want to work together as generations. But I know in church ministry, we often divide into groups, right? There's men's ministry, and then there's women's ministry, and then there's children's ministry, and young adult ministry. And I think that's fair and worth doing. I'm not against that at all. Because when you're a young adult, it's a special time in your life, and you really want to hear from, and speak to just those issues. But there's something really valuable that happens when they all come together, and I don't think we get enough of that. And so I love that our mission trip to Mexico is we go to build 3 homes. I think I heard today that the high schoolers themselves raised like $5,000.
$5,500. Yeah.
Between like doing odd jobs
Car
and
wash.
selling donuts and
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff that there's something about that they're going to remember that for the rest of their life. And we haven't even gone on the trip yet. But then they'll be with an adult who does construction for a living and is helping to build a home, and they're maybe swinging a hammer for the first time, and it's just powerful. And then we all worship together in the evening, and it's super valuable. I want to encourage more people next year when you hear that we're going to Mexico next year to build some homes, or maybe we're going somewhere else. I think we've got even an Africa trip in the works that we're thinking about. You don't want to say anything
planning,
about that yet?
Yeah, we're not. We're in the planning, and we don't want to go ahead. But the idea is with this point of like even like the man. There's one of the men who spent probably his entire life in construction, and like you say, with the one that never swings a hammer. But you have to see the beauty of the conversation that happened in the time where this man will take a high school kid and say, here how you do this.
Yeah.
I start doing this when I was 12 to help. And then you see this interaction, this exchange of experience. One has all the knowledge of how things works because of the internet. The other one has the whole experience,
Yeah.
how these things will work.
Yep.
Because I have done this enough.
All right. We'll maybe wrap up here, but I was just thinking of something. I was thinking of all the people at Church on the Hill. My girls are now 20 and 21, and then we've raised for shorter amounts of time in 6 years different foster kids. But there are people at Church on the Hill that have contributed so much to that. There's a lot of them that have contributed to my daughter's grace and faith. But then I was just thinking of the Hill people. That's what I like to call Church on the Hill people. They're Hill people, right? That's not insulting, is it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm second language.
They're Hill people, yeah.
It just sounds the people who lives on the hill.
That's how I think of
Yeah.
them. Yeah. Maybe they play a banjo
Yeah.
in their spare time. Like me, they might be missing a tooth. No. There are a lot of Hill people that have like I don't know what I'd do without them. Like, I mean, in the fostering, there are people that have just said, "Hey, can we give you time to have a date?" And I mean, that means the world to me. Like Hugh and Sandra Bauer, two of my favorite people in the whole world, elders at the church, just like he's on the worship team. They lead life groups at times. They step into all kinds of ministries. And one of the things I love about them is they ask about how I'm actually doing. And then they remember what I said.
Yeah. He can continue a conversation the next Sunday.
Yep.
It's
If I
amazing.
told Hugh something about a foster kid that we're praying about, the next time he sees me, he's like, "Hey, I've been praying about that. How's your little guy doing, or what's happening in his life?" And that's the generation connecting that just means everything.
Yeah.
So
You know,
good job, Hill people.
Coming from a third world country where the word individual, it is different from the Western culture,
Right.
where it's like you wake up in the morning. It is like, what are we gonna do today? Where are we going? We're going to the movies. We're going. So and I can't forget when Nadia Armstrong, when they ask her, "How do you do?" She say, "I build my village here," you know. And I think that's the most important. That's what we're trying as a family ministry.
Yeah.
This is why we're doing the Sunday, the family month. It is saying,
Right.
see, I know it's a funny saying where people used to say how many people needs to raise a children.
Yeah, it takes a village.
Takes a village. And that's true. You know, you will have your kid come home saying things that he heard,
Yeah.
learn. My kid will come and say, "I ate that green thing that looked like a tree
Yeah.
in someone's house. It's so good."
Yeah.
And my wife will say, "That's broccoli."
I've been trying to feed you this
yeah.
for 10 years.
10 years. It's like I have done all the recipe I could.
Yeah.
So I think that's where
That's good.
it's amazing when we say the community.
Yeah.
This when you hear us in church saying this all the time,
Yeah.
it's because this is what I'm saying.
Armstrongs are another one, man.
Building a community together, or kids like it's like your kid will look to the next person on front and see an adult with the hands raised.
Yep.
And they want to raise their hands as
You
well.
want to see healthy generational ministry? Go talk to the Armstrongs and invite them into your village. All right, we better stop. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate
welcome,
you joining us here on the pod, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of feedback on calling people Hill people. So, sorry, Hill people.
Yeah.
We will see you on Sunday. All right. If this has been a blessing to you, then pass it on to somebody else. If not, bye. See you Sunday.
See you.